path begins within. Welcome to the Way of Mastery. Welcome to episode 2 of the Way of Mastery podcast. Today we are going to speak, share, express into this journey of awakening that we all find ourselves on. And this journey has many stages, it has many layers, it has many archetypes. And I was feeling into what was going to be the second transmission of this podcast. Really laying the bricks, laying the foundation. As in episode 1, we spoke about the pillars of self-mastery. Being that self-mastery is everything we're really speaking to within this podcast. And episode 2, also leaving room and space to build on that foundation of self-mastery and to detail the journey that we take, that we often go through in order to realize, remember, reclaim more of ourself. And that is through this journey of awakening, this hero's journey, this healing journey, whatever you want to call it. It lives under many names. And so perhaps this will give you some insight as well into my story, into my journey. For those of you that are new to me, that perhaps haven't tuned in to any of my other work, this may be a great way to understand the lens of these archetypes that I'm going to share today, these 8 archetypes, mixed in with how these archetypes have lived through me. And perhaps it is through that you can then relate to my experience and bring deeper awareness and inquiry into your journey, into your path. Before we get started, something I really like to do is to create a sense of coherence, a sense of presence, a sense of safety within oneself. And as I shared in the first episode, just a very short few-minute meditation to really ground and anchor into what is going to be shared today. And so, of course, if you're driving or you're operating some level of a motor vehicle, you can either fast forward past this, or you can even listen to it and even do an open eye meditation. So for those of you that are seated, that are still, I invite you now, if it feels good for you, to close down your eyes. And to just simply be for the next few moments, few minutes. To give yourself permission to drop the doing, the chasing, the striving, the producing, the performing. And just come into true beingness, stillness, and to live within this short pause, and to invite in that pause, that suspension in time, is just to bring awareness to our breath, to the present moment of our breath. And if it feels good, just exhaling out all the air and breathing in through your nose and breathing out the mouth. Again, deep, slow breath in and exhale all the way out. Sending that breath into the belly, breathing in. And steady exhale out of pursed lips all the way out. Once again, inhale and exhale. And just stay within that pocket. With that flow of receiving life, giving life. Receiving love, giving love. And it's through this breath, this slow, steady breath, that we open ourselves to greater awareness of ourselves, the field around us. And through that, we then begin to perceive a wider range of reality. To see possibilities, to see opportunities, to see potential. So just stay here for a few more breaths. And when you're ready, you can begin to slowly orientate yourself to the space you're in. Just noticing, just observing as you open your eyes and come back. What's here for you right now? Perhaps a little bit more peace, calm, relaxation, openness. Whatever it may be, it's all perfect. Okay, so let's go into it. Let's get into it. Really, where this conversation begins for me is back in 2008. I was in my early 20s. I was at university studying communications and marketing. And it was here where something began to stir within me. Something was ignited. Something was sparked. That curiosity, that questioning, that there has to be something more than what we've been told. And this is really where everything begins. It's through that curiosity. It's through the questioning of all the things that we've been told, taught, and sold. Because, well, that's the matrix we live in, is indoctrination. It's conditioning, it's programming. In the subtlest and not so subtlest ways. And so we begin to question our existence, our reality. And for me, this is exactly what happened, and it's so interesting on what those catalysts are that come into your life to really make you question. Because it's often some initiation or catalyst that is happening in those current moments that then kind of shake us awake a little bit. Sometimes it could be very light. Sometimes it could be very intense. For me at this time, it was a book that perhaps you may have heard of. This book, Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. A classic book about a hypnotherapist who began regressing patients back into past lives. And it was an exploration of past lives. And that'll be perhaps another conversation. It's a very multi-layered topic. But nonetheless, that experience of that book, reading that book, it really awakened something in me. It was sort of like this knowingness, this inner knowing of the things that I've, maybe previously asked about or heard about in reincarnation and all of these things. But something within that text really began to ask questions as a result of reading it. And so those years went by, still, working in the corporate world, holding high position in a company and having these experiences, these responsibilities, and then further pursuing a master's degree. I kept sort of walking that traditional path. Until that path did not serve me anymore, until that path was basically saying that you're done. This is sort of the last little bit you have before everything changes. And I didn't know what that was. And, at the time, sure, I had a great time. I was a DJ on the weekends, even though I was working in the corporate world. And, I finished my master's degree, graduated top of my class. And all of what looked to be on paper to be an incredible accomplishment and achievement, I just did not feel satisfied. I was not fulfilling my values. I was not fulfilling my vision for traveling and adventure and helping others and all of these things that were very much really present within me, but those values weren't being fulfilled with where I was. And so I felt a little lost and empty on the inside. And so this is where the journey really started to begin. And, it was this moment, this sort of opportunity to really go beyond what I thought was possible. And, for me, it was a prayer that I put out that I really, this is something that I don't want to be doing any longer. And I know that there's something else out there for me. And so I prayed, I asked, I intended for something, a sign, something to show me what was my next step. And several weeks later, I was driving down the highway and I saw a billboard. The billboard said, "Are you ready to answer the call?" On the right-hand corner, it said sponsored by the Peace Corps. And I apologize for those of you that have heard this story before, but it's important to lay the foundation of this for everybody else who hasn't. And so as I saw this sign, something really awakened into me. It was a pure, magical synchronicity. And so I go home and I Google what the Peace Corps was. It's back in 2012. And I find out that it's a organization ran by the U.S. government, and it basically sends volunteers to over 80 countries around the world. It was started in 1962 by John F. Kennedy. And it really allows young adults and even grown adults, even elders, to serve in this experience where you become a health, business, agriculture, teaching English, one of these roles that you go play. And for me, it was very intriguing because it really fulfilled a lot of the values and checked a lot of those boxes that I really wanted in my next iteration, next version. So long story short, I decided to apply, and it was through the application process, a very rigorous one of physical, mental, emotional test, that I was really invested in this potential experience. And so a year went by, and I received an email, and the email on this August evening read, "Dear Christopher, you have been selected to serve in Peace Corps Tanzania, and yada, yada, yada. You have 7 days to decide." And so there I was reading this letter in my downtown apartment with my roommate, sharing this with him. And of course, in that moment, a lot of fear came up. First of all, I didn't really feel the call to go to Africa. I wanted to go to South America. That was my mental plan, at least. And so here I was with a big decision to make. Was I to continue the path I was walking, or was I going to choose something different? And in my heart of hearts, I knew that I had no choice but to go. That if I didn't go, I would absolutely regret that decision. And so I accepted. A few days later, and a few months later, I was flying on a 747 jet en route to Tanzania, alongside 30 plus other volunteers in my cohort. And after arrival into the country, I was within a day sent to live with a host family for the first few months, while me and my other people in the cohort, other Americans, also lived in their own separate families, would meet every day for training, language training, cultural training, really understanding, the experience that we were going to serve for 27 months. And I remember getting to my host family's house, and, they welcomed me with a big, bright smile. And it's funny because from the start, they called me Nicholas. And it's interesting because that was potentially going to be my name before I was Christopher. And this is a family of 8 people, and they welcome me into their home. I had 2 big suitcases, and they take me inside their home. And mind you, paint the picture here. It's a little shack. It's a little brick house with basically 2 rooms. One where the mom and dad sleep, and the other where the grandma and the children sleep. And you can think of very, very limited conditions here. We're talking sleeping on mattresses on floors, and very weak infrastructure. No formal kitchen or bathroom. The bathroom is a hole in the basically ground with porcelain around it. The kitchen is an outdoor jiko, they called it in Swahili. Jiko that basically uses coal and charcoal and even wood to cook. No electricity, no running water, and my room was this little kind of almost storage closet with a bed in it. So here I was, halfway across the world, 8,000 miles away, in this experience, and obviously in culture shock for sure, and also realizing, wow, how much I really did have in the sense of amenities and convenience. And it was through that, first 3 months, I was absolutely tested in so many ways. But just those 3 months really shaped my experience to come. Not only did I have a very intense parasite where it left me very bedridden, which was a test in itself, but then from there to leave that training and get sent down to a village where I would then serve and live for 2 years. And this would be where I'd be by myself. The closest Peace Corps volunteer, I think, was an hour and a half away. So here I am, the only white American English speaker in this village amongst, hundreds of people. And so that, again, was a humbling experience. And I received such a beautiful welcome once again from these people. And was invited into their homes, was invited into their families. And, that 2 years was really about relationship building, about understanding the interconnectedness and weavings of what true tribe and community is. And it's something that I've already spoken about. I'll be sharing more about my vision for what I'm creating as a livable community and healing sanctuary. But with that being said, that experience there, of course, serving the people in the village, but them really serving me in so many ways and gaining so much. And, by the day, really allowing myself to contemplate and to tune into what was real for me. Who was I? Why am I here? Asking the bigger questions, because everything I was living by before was not who I truly was. It was an identity that I claimed. And so this experience gave me the space, the time. I didn't have the conveniences and amenities. I had literally so much spaciousness and living primally with the land, with nature, with the earth. And so I was able to listen a lot. And a lot of fear came up, a lot of trauma, wounding, all the things that, perhaps have been suppressed for so long, all came to the surface as a result of having this time, having this experience, being alone here. And it was through that I also awakened what I call the first archetype. And that archetype is the rebel. So the first phase of this awakening journey is actually disillusionment. And the first archetype, a part of this phase one, is the rebel. And so what is the rebel? The rebel awakens to basically all the corruption, the conditioning, the falsehood that we have inherited, all of the indoctrination, the programming of society. And this is where we truly begin to see the world for what it is, the illusion of this reality. And all of the lies that we've been sold. And through this, we question the institutions, authority. We question the system and the structures, everything. This is the rebel. And I can remember at this time I had discovered, if you perhaps may know him, Alex Jones, and his whole radio program. I think it was called Truth Wars. Maybe it still is. I haven't listened to Alex in a long time. But Alex Jones, he played such a beautiful part in this experience for me at that time, because it was looking at the world. And yes, he had made some really interesting and also very true claims of what was actually happening. But he did it in a very rebellious, angry way. So there was a lot of anger, and it was at that time, it was helpful. It was actually meaningful and important for me to allow that anger to come out in the way that it did and allow that to roar. I remember, perhaps I'll read some of them here at some point, but some of my writings back then, the writings that I had in my blog were very, rebellious, very revolutionary, very direct. And so this served as a very necessary experience for me to expose, and this urge to expose what was broken and wake other people up. Right? And this was what I was attempting to do through my blog and through my writing, was to wake others, shake people awake and tell them, hey guys, there's more than what we have been told. And oftentimes, this doesn't always go over too well with the people around you, right? Because they're not ready to hear what you're sharing, but you feel so passionate about it. And perhaps you can relate to me while I share this, is you feel so passionate about it that it often becomes then like this mission. And the more that you're in this energy, it oftentimes repels people, even though you don't see it at the time. You may even question, like, why aren't they listening, right? Why aren't they doing anything about it? But everybody's evolving in their own rate, and it's perfect the way it is. And really the shadow of this rebel archetype, although beautiful and a really necessary experience, and it is the first archetype of this process, these stages of awakening, is that, the shadow is becoming so consumed by the opposition, by the evil out there, and defining ourselves by what we're up against. It's something to conquer, and it's very much external. Whereas we don't really realize at that moment that it's actually the deepest of this work is internal, because everything's just a mirror and a reflection. And what we disown and push away, judge, condemn outside of ourselves very much lives within us. And so, but at this point, we don't know that. The rebel really, this archetype really helps us see the cages we live in. And that rebellious spirit is necessary. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Way of Mastery podcast. And before we continue, I just wanted to take a moment here to share a few ways you can go deeper into all of this work. First of all, I'm really excited to share that we have just a few spots remaining for our upcoming Sonic Breathwork Facilitator training happening at a beautiful 5-star oceanside villa this October in Nosara, Costa Rica. Whether you're a current or aspiring coach, guide, or facilitator, this is really an incredible opportunity to deepen your relationship with the breath, which is the foundational force for all healing. And alongside that, to experience your own transformation and ultimately learn how to guide others through this powerful healing work. And if you'd like to learn more about that, all you got to do is drop below in the show notes. The link is there. And lastly, if you're looking for ongoing support on your journey of self-mastery, I invite you to join me and hundreds of others from around the globe inside of the Mastery Collective. This is my personal community where we explore the wisdom teachings, the system of the gene keys, where we dive deep into the power and the medicine of our own breath. And we deepen into this incredible space where I support you through group coaching and integration, through my transformational workshops, my courses, programs, and so much more. This is really the central hub for all of my teaching. So if you'd like to dive into either of these pathways, all you got to do is go right below into the show notes. And now let's get back into the episode. So phase 2 within this experience, within these stages, and specifically phase 1 of disillusionment, is the seeker. So I can remember, this anger, it would be kind of the rebel and the seeker playing very coherent roles and connected roles. They were their individuals, but then the seeker would come out. And the seeker is all about, exploring spirituality, philosophy, healing, ancient wisdom. I remember reading Krishnamurti. I think I read all of Hemingway's books. I was really deep into these spiritual philosophies and understanding the many different faces of spiritual philosophy in Eastern, Western, and really diving deep, right? And into this level of this seeker. And for me, it was really reading the works of other people. And this really allowed me to go into some really incredible teachings that have supported me along my path. Right? And as this sort of old world view collapses, this is where the seeker begins looking for the deeper answers. What's beneath the surface? What's been hidden from humanity? Because there's been a lot of secrets that have been kept and tucked away about who we are, our history, so much. And so at this point, that was me. It was a way of going deeper into what was beneath the surface. And not only did I search for truth in these books, but it was through meeting amazing people, later studying herbalism, traveling through South America, working with medicine men and women, discovering plant medicine, breath work, gene keys. It's all part of the seeker archetype. And there's still part of the speaker, the seeker that lives within me. There's still part of the rebel that lives within me, right? So this isn't a linear process where we move from one to another. They generally begin to coexist with each other throughout these different stages. But really, the healing journey, the awakening journey, it's just one big spiral. And so we keep meeting ourselves at different levels of the journey. It's not like you graduate from one thing to another. However, as you become more embodied in your authenticity and your walk and how you're showing up, then naturally you begin to perhaps live within maybe one archetype more than another. But again, we revisit through this experience these different archetypes. So phase 2 is the unraveling. I am not who I thought I was. So the rebel is pushing against the external. The seeker is seeking for truth externally. The initiate, really, it starts to come within. This is where we begin to turn inward. And, at this time, oftentimes the dark night of the soul hits, or we are experiencing some breakdown in our life, some catalyst. For me, I've been through so many different catalysts, so many different dark nights that I could do a whole friggin' podcast on just that alone. I've been very deeply humbled by life. One of those main moments for me was falling out of, for those of you that heard my story about, on the Zambezi River halfway through my Peace Corps service, whitewater rafting, and then falling out of the raft into a class 5 rapid that swept me under, that took me under, that rolled me around, bounced me against rocks, fighting for my life, and ultimately drifting from my vessel, my very body, and drifting into another state of awareness where for the first time I wasn't fully connected to this realm, to this human experience. And that in itself, as you can imagine, really changed my perspective on everything. And after really this experience, being able to perceive so much about really what it is that I was here for. And remember, even in those moments of taking that breath, of looking up at the sky, of seeing the canyons around me, and really not only grateful to be here, as this is a gift of an experience, no matter, even though it's very challenging at times, but the gift of being human, the gift of feeling, the gift of breathing, and how then that led exactly to this awakening moment of me realizing that a big part of my mission, very much at the core of my mission, is the art, the practice of conscious breathing, of breath work, and how I meant to share that with the world. And hence now, many years later, and why I'm doing what I do in the many form and facets, but one of those beautiful projects and experiences is Beats and Breath, and being able to share my app with the world, being able to go and facilitate very powerful, profound, transformative journeys for people around the world. So all of that what led to that. But that was an initiatory experience. This is where there was this catalyst that brought me deliberately into a full realization. And there's been other moments. There's been, deep depressions after returning home from Africa, that 6-7 month depressions. There's been plant medicine. There's been darkroom experiences. There's been really profound experiences that have all resulted in a death process. And when I say death, most of those times it's been metaphorical, but it was a death of my ego and what I cling to as an identity or a story or a belief. It was a shedding, and it was these initiations that led into those deaths, into no longer being able to maintain those identities or whatever it is that we were dying to. The next archetype out of this phase 2 is the mystic. this is the one who experiences realities beyond the rational mind. And this is where you get to begin to touch and play as you come within yourself, as you deepen into your self-mastery, into this journey, into this path. You begin to experience the synchronicities, at times the unity and altered states of being. And it is through the exploration of what we explore in our initiated stage, which is very much the shadow, that we come into the magic and mysticism of reality itself, feeling a deeper connection to God, to nature, to source, to creator, whatever you want to call it. And that perhaps we, start tapping into these experiences through just everyday life, or perhaps even through plant medicine, through Kundalini yoga, through breath work, through any of these means. But we're really desiring to explore this mystical side. For me, the mystic has really come out in, again, the same thing. Kundalini was a big part of my journey, Kundalini yoga early on. And, I've had some very, very powerful, profound experiences that, again, I'll share at other times, but also very scary experiences that really shook me awake. But a lot of this was during these times, like seeing the grand aspect of nature, of this reality, of this experience, and how everything is connected. And of course, breath work being part of this experience of awakening this mystic, and so much more. And so the shadow of the mystic is the chasing of spiritual highs while neglecting mundane and ordinary life. So when you're in this archetype of the mystic, that's the shadow of it. Because every one of these archetypes has a shadow and it has a light side, right? There's darkness and light in everything. And it's at least from the lens of duality. And that didn't mention the shadow of the initiate. That would be resisting the collapse and trying to return to your old life. So you're in resistance to what's happening and the catalysts that are happening. So now we've touched the rebel, the seeker. In phase 2 in the unraveling, we touched the initiate and the mystic. And now we move into phase 3, which is the integration phase. And the integration phase is my outer life reflects my inner world. And it is through this phase, this stage, that we touch the 5th archetype, which is the Alchemist. The Alchemist is the one that turns towards the inner child, deeper into the shadow, from a place of acceptance and feeling, to trauma, to working with the nervous system. And we begin to see life as a true mirror, where we begin to look at our relationships. We begin to look at our connection to money, to our work, to what our body's telling us, as all mirrors to what's happening inside of us. This very much goes along the lines of the law of correspondence in Hermetics, as within, so without, as above, so below. So whatever is happening externally is a great signal to what's happening internally, and we get to be the alchemist here, where we get to turn and begin to really transform our wounds into wisdom, our pain into purpose, our shadow into our gifts, our darkness into light. And this is really where that healer turns on. And we dive into the deeper layers again of our inner child, of our emotions. We begin to see all the connection between it all. And this is where a lot of patterns can be revealed, right? Specifically around survival, around our relationship to ourselves and our own self-worth, the lack, the scarcity we feel. And this is all the things that live within the nervous system, live within the body. And so we go into this excavation process, this purification process. And in this case, for me, like my biggest, this is like just, again, lived experience of being able to work within these realms and these archetypes. But, really where a lot of my wounds were triggered, they've been triggered the whole time throughout this journey, but a lot of where the wounds have been triggered for me have been like my deepest intimate relationships, as well as, my fatherhood, and looking at, how much my son just mirrors my own little boy. And seeing my little boy so clearly through him in such a beautiful and very profound way, and feeling my triggers, my reactions, and the things that come up, and being able to play the alchemist in these situations, to see them for what they are, as gifts to guide me back closer to myself. But the shadow here is becoming trapped in the endless healing cycle and self-analysis. It's very easy to get trapped in that. It's very easy to say, I need to fix XYZ. I need to, do this, use this next tool, this next practice to change this and all of that. And we can very much get into the way of believing that we're broken in so many ways. And so that is the Alchemist. The 6th archetype is the Sovereign. And this is where we really stop. We begin to see how we've given our power away to so many things, so many people. And this is returning back to our power, back to our center, back to, our sovereignty. Reclaiming our inner authority. And this is where we begin to invite in a deeper level of self-love, self-trust, taking responsibility, discernment, moving from victimhood of these things have happened to me and they're happening to me, to this is happening through me. It's happening for me. And developing these boundaries around our time, our energy, reclaiming our deepest level of authority within ourselves, becoming self-sourced individuals rather than dependent on external validation. And damn, let me tell you, this has been such a journey for me, and so many ways in which I, even through all of this, seeing the ways in which there was still judgment against myself, or not seeing myself so clearly and fully. And oftentimes we can't see ourselves, everybody else can see us from this lens, but then we can't see ourselves as clearly sometimes. And so it's been such a journey to come back into my power, to come back into my voice, into my expression, right? And this is really just recently, even like it's been a process over time, but like really stepping into a place where I feel really deeply embodied, which I'll share in the next archetype, in my voice, in my expression, in my work, and in my relationships and all the things. But it's layer by layer, breath by breath, step by step that this work happens. And so this is the Sovereign. And the shadow here is confusing sovereignty with isolation or control. And so we go into phase 4. Phase 4 is embodiment. And the archetype within the 7th archetype is the embodied one. So really the idea behind this phase of embodiment, phase 4, is my life becomes the teaching. So the embodied one, it closes the gap between spiritual understanding and everyday life. It's how we really respond when we're triggered by life. Do we respond with rage and anger and reaction and blame and shame? Or do we respond with awareness, with intention, with that pause? And of course, these are practices because we still get triggered from time to time. We still yell at the guy in front of you who's going too slow, right? Like shit, like we're human, we get into these moments. But how fast can we come back, right? And bring awareness back to everything we're experiencing. And this is the embodied one. So it's bringing awareness into relationships, parenting, leadership, into ourselves, into the moment, into the experience. It's living with integrity when no one is watching. Fatherhood, again, has become such a powerful teacher in this. The same thing in partnership and business and leadership, to be able to really, fully be real, walk the talk, walk into the fire, share as a student and a guide, but really be embodied fully in it. And embodiment is simply being in the body. So much of our experience is lived in the mind. So how deeply can we be rooted in the body? The shadow here is the spiritual perfectionism and pretending to be beyond the human struggle. I've caught myself in this before too, not intentionally so much, but just like that lack of desiring, especially in my public persona and or my public facing self that I share with the world, which is all very real and true. There's still been part of me where maybe I've lacked some level of vulnerability because it felt, I didn't want to be perceived a certain way. But I realized over the years that actually it's that vulnerability that connects me to other people in a deeper and profound way. So it invites in deeper intimacy with me in life and others in a beautiful way. And it gives other people permission to do the same. So it's all a dance here. It's all a dance. So now we go into the Wayshower. And the Wayshower is the one who is able to turn their lived experience into medicine for others, into service, right? Because this is a really important part of the journey. And oftentimes a really difficult part of the journey is to see yourself as a way of actually guiding others. And it's your story, it's your lived experience, it's all the things that you've gone through that actually becomes your medicine. Your wounds turn into your wisdom. And this is where you begin to step into a place of self-leadership, into perhaps entrepreneurship. It was service in some form, to be able to help others reconnect to their own power, just as you have done and continue to go through. And this is really where people can use your gifts in a way that can support them in their transformation. Because at the end of the day, we're all designed to be of service to the whole. And so you ask yourself the question, the Wayshower asks, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? For me, this has been a continuous journey. I've started my first business. Since my ears are ringing, I'm very strong right now. So whatever I just said there, maybe rewind that. We're all designed to be of service to the whole, because when we are of service to the whole, we are of service to the self, because really we're all one. So when you serve the whole, you also serve yourself in a beautiful way. And so for me, this has been an ongoing journey, of course, but I started my first business as a health coach, detoxification coach back in 2016 after the Peace Corps. Started my first podcast then, as I mentioned in the first episode. And so this is a way of me, continuing to share my experience, my story, because what I experienced and what I went through, perhaps someone else that is listening to me went through. And may my experience be an inspiration to someone else or empower someone else. And so, of course, this has gone on throughout the years of starting Beats and Breath, of creating retreats, of writing, of speaking, of community, of all the things that are connected within my ecosystem. This is all for way of me of living out this archetype of the Wayshower and showing people that, hey, if I can do it, you could do it too, and do it in your own way, your unique way, your authentic way. And this is it's been such a beautiful path to be able to walk. The shadow of the Wayshower is becoming a savior, over giving or believing it's our job to awaken everyone. So when we, believe that we have to save people or fix people, like this is the shadow side of it. Or over giving from a place where you're not giving back to yourself of what you need. And thinking that we need to awaken every single person. But really, at the end of the day, the embodied one in the Wayshower, they kind of become one where, you're not telling people what to do, where to go. You're becoming the living reminder that another way is possible. And from there, people can begin to, use your teachings, your guidance, your leadership as a source of inspiration in their own life. And it's really through your inner essence that you shine the brightest. It's not through the external. Yes, it's important to create conversation, to share your voice and all that, but it's through your innermost being. And this is something I'm still learning as well. So again, these archetypes that I shared today, they're not hierarchy, right? We're not going from one to the next. Awakening healing's not linear. So you may be the Wayshower in your work and an initiate in your relationship. You may feel sovereign in your spirituality and become the wounded seeker around money. We move through these archetypes again and again, each time at a deeper level with deeper awareness. So maybe the question isn't how awakened am I, but perhaps it's which archetype is life asking me to embody right now? This isn't about becoming more spiritual or more evolved. It's about gradually shedding the layers of everything that prevents you from fully embodying who you've always been, to allow yourself to be an empty vessel, a channel, a conduit for the Great Spirit, for Source to move through you, to be a channel for good in this world, to uplift others. This is what it's about. So as we travel this path, as we walk this journey, just remember the core truth that you are a powerful spiritual being, infinite creator that is having this human incarnation. And that this is all really but a dream. And it is through your consciousness, it's through your innermost state of being that you are creating the reality that you are experiencing. And that you came here with specific lessons, challenges, experiences to have. Also, your soul can evolve and grow and expand. And we come to this earth school for very specific reasons. And so may you prosper and thrive in all the ways, and to be able to tune into your core essence, your true nature, and to live from that place. And become a living, walking, breathing inspiration for everybody. All the lives that you touch. And with that, I'm checking out. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to be of service today, of sharing this message, this transmission with you, and perhaps it awakens something within you. Perhaps it it rattled something within you. If it did, be sure to leave a comment wherever you're tuning into this, if that's possible, to share your experience. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, you can do so on Spotify and Apple Music, to follow the show and perhaps even leave a review if you feel so inclined, to help get this to more people. And for those of you that are interested in diving deeper with me, you can join my community, my online community, through the platform of School. It's a really, really incredible group of individuals, hundreds of individuals from around the world. The community is called the Mastery Collective. And inside the Mastery Collective is where all of my teachings, all of my courses, my programs are all housed within this single platform, very easy to navigate, alongside just a beautiful group of people that are here walking the same path. And each month I go live multiple times, really every week, to share teachings specifically around the Gene Keys and your personal Gene Keys profile, which is a great system and tool for self-actualization, self-awareness, realization, self-mastery. I guide people through powerful breathwork experiences, journeys. We do all sorts of healing through our group coaching and integration work. And I also have transformational workshops. So all of this under one roof. And it feels really good to support people in this way and to give back in this way. So if you are at all interested in diving deeper into what I speak to here and so much else, then the Mastery Collective is the place. The link is in the show notes below. And from there, I hope to see you on the other side, and sending you so much love and positive energy wherever you are in the world, and looking forward to tuning in with you next time. Peace.